Welcome back to the Week in Horror. Today we're going to talk about December 1st through December 7th. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Eugene, and I'm here with JL and Alex. How are y'all doing?
Good. I was waiting for Alex.
This is Alex.
Oh, no, we can. I think we can actually keep this funny. How's it going, horror fans? This is JL.
Number 10.
Oh, and of course things are going to get crazy for our 10th
made ourselves
episode.
Absolutely. The big 1-0.
Absolutely. Ho, ho, ho.
Oh. We are going into the
You know what would be a
Christmas
super
season.
cool
This is
Christmas
perfect
present is like 500 followers on Facebook.
Definitely. One of my favorite times of the year. That would be awesome.
That would be sweet. And we could do like a huge giveaway. Like movies and horror memorabilia and merchandise, stuff like that. That would be really, really sick. That's something that I would like to do. In fact, I think we will do that. We will do that. If we hit 500 followers before Christmas, December 25th, we hit 500 followers before that, we will do a giant giveaway on this. That will include DVDs of your favorite horror films, classic horror films, and a bunch of other very, very cool horror shit that we can find and throw in a box.
You think you get your hands on some like serial killer memorabilia or something?
One of our lucky listeners will get that, but we got to hit those 500 followers before Christmas, and then I have, you know, I may look through my own personal collection. I've got some really interesting shit that I would probably be really cool with parting with. You know, I've got some good stuff here.
Yeah, that would be really cool. So definitely tell your friends, follow us, keep track, check out the Facebook page on a regular basis.
Follow us there and get that daily splatter.
Absolutely.
Every day.
All right.
Last one.
Let's see, to recap, right? We actually have, it's like Friday the 13th this month.
I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
The last one of the year. I fucking love these because I always do Jason marathons on Friday the 13th. That's how I end my week. I just go in there and just like, boom, start at 1 and see how far I can get.
Oh, there's no such thing.
Well, usually by then I'm drunk enough to endure Jason X.
Oh, yeah. I guess he's screwed.
Oh, come on. Uber Jason.
That's half
You need at least 5 shots
a bottle of
accept
Jamie and
that.
half a joint, and maybe you can deal with it.
You gotta look forward to the camping scene with the girls in the sleeping bag.
Okay, that scene... that scene damn near makes that movie fucking worth it. Just seeing him get to do that again. Only it was like, instead of just one, it was like boom, 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 boom. It was like, die, bitches.
Oh man.
That's how I felt about the movie. Die.
Oh. We also have, this is also the month. And there's something special, something really, really cool I found online. It was a book, and for those who dig, books on horrors like this, it was a really, really neat one. And apparently this bad boy is really, really hard to find, but it's called Yuletide Terror, Christmas Horror on Film and TV. It's this awesome hardback book, the sick-ass cover, and just like loaded, like 400 pages of just the history of Christmas horror. Just all stuff, TV series, films, indie stuff, as much as they could jam pack in this book. I highly recommend it for the horror fan in your family as a present if you can find it. Now, this thing, I think it was in print. It was published in 2017, but is ridiculously difficult to find. But if you can find it, I strongly recommend it. Yuletide.
You know the
Terror.
one.
Ooh, for the horror fan of the family.
Yeah, I think it would make an excellent Christmas present. It's that particular one in your family.
Yeah, the one listening.
You know who we're talking about.
Drop hints with your family. By the way, this is what I like for Christmas.
Grandma, I want this book. Oh,
and then
sweet, a book.
follow the
What's
Facebook
it about?
page. I might have
it's
a giveaway.
Santa killing everyone.
There you go. More horror stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As long as he's reading.
Oh, and for this month, Eugene, you've got some special news.
Yeah. So I directed a short horror film called The Sacrifice. That it went on to win a couple awards at a film festival a couple years ago, and it got picked up by the Dallas Film Alliance screening on December 5th at the Angelica. So if you actually live in Dallas, come out. Tickets, I think, are like $10 or something like that, and it's about 6 or 7 other great, fantastic films. Another film I produced called Daddy's Little Girl, but you can actually see a little bit of my work in action. The Sacrifice. It's a great horror film. The villain that we had, she won Best Villain. She's super creepy. Super, super creepy in terms of how she can pop up. Yeah.
I can fucking attest to this. That shit creeped me the fuck out. Of course, then again, I watched it with the lights off as I was going to bed, and I was like, no,
And it was actually funny because me and my girlfriend were at Six Flags, and we ran into her yesterday.
Oh,
yeah,
sweet.
so
Coming to character, bitch.
Yeah, coming to screening. She's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, why don't you scare like the shit out of people? She's like, I'm excited.
But I can attest, super creepy little short that was just very, very effective. Any of you listeners out there who dig stuff like that, if you happen to be in Dallas and you know the Angelica, is this the one over off Mockingbird?
Yes, that one.
Sweet.
So it starts at 7 p.m. December 5th. Come check it out. There's gonna be a whole red carpet there. I'll be there, so you get a chance to meet me, and see some other great films. And speaking of films, we got our first one coming up. Our first film that was released December 1st, 2006, right?
Ooh.
Directed by John Stockwell, starring a pre-Transformers Josh Duhamel.
Fantastic.
And Olivia Wilde.
Piece of...
And the film is Turista.
Out of curiosity, have you ever seen a dumber fucking group of teenagers?
I have not in my life. Now there's some close ones, but I think they may take first prize.
They're up there. So those of you who have not seen this movie, just a real down and dirty quick rundown. You get a group of teenagers, they're in South America, like we're gonna go party and all this other kind of stuff, and they start partying with some locals, and of course the locals drug their drinks. And they, of course, locals do. And so then they're like, oh, we don't have any ID. We don't have any,
uncle's house.
Like, all this other kind of stuff. Where are we going to go? And this guy's like, well, why don't you come check this house on this hill?
Well, what else are we supposed to do?
Sounds like a great idea.
This sounds great. This is a great idea.
Absolutely. And it's, I don't know, maybe go to the U.S. Embassy or something like that, but no!
I was just fucking thinking that. Maybe we should go to the embassy and try to get, copies of our IDs. No! We gotta go to this dude's that we don't know's uncle's house in the middle of the fucking jungle. That's where we need to go.
That's the safest place. And
shit.
It turns out that these people like to steal organs and sell them on the black market.
This is like it's the worst fucking vacation ever. Oh God,
dude!
And you forgot.
So they get to this fucking dude's house and they find all these passports, and this guy's like, Alex, played by Josh.
Just too stupid to live.
Wonder who all these people are. Let's stick around for a little bit and maybe find. You fucking get everybody together and be like, yo, fucking get your survival pants on because we're about to fucking brave the jungle. Let's go.
I admit it's the first time I've ever seen in a horror film where the characters, the protagonist, you usually have the moment where the heroes, or if they stumble across like the dumping ground of all the shit, the previous victims, where they dumped all their shit or their IDs or some shit like that, and they they recognize it for what it is. It's like, holy fuck, this is a bad situation, and that's where the action picks up. But no, they see like, oh,
it's weird. We lost our passports, and I just found a bunch of lost passports.
They must have. Who are these nice people collecting these lost passports for these people? It's like, what
the... So obviously the thing to do is to stay the night here.
Because they get to like the beach.
Yes,
one
stay the night.
I forgot my top in Rio. You don't mind if I go topless? I'm like, they're all gonna fucking die like immediately.
Because a lot of times you have like the one smart person, like everybody else can be dumb, but it's usually like the final girl, the one who has like the heads up or
just
something like that.
Kill them all.
Okay, that's
even leave
clearly
the beach?
like
just
the final one.
You're
they're gonna make it through. You watch this, you're like, I want them all to die.
Probably not, because they gotta put those organs in other people, and then they're gonna turn out fucking stupid.
Yes. Yeah, stealing their organs was the best thing that could happen to these characters.
I'm sorry. I don't care how privileged you are or whatever. Where you can
make them dump on fucking osmosis or some shit,
scooting you along. There's like some fucking survival instinct inside of you that says you're in the middle of the jungle, being led to a cabin by some fucking tribesmen that you're obviously not supposed to be here. Let's go to this dude's cabin. Cool. Find all this weird shit. Cool, let's stick around longer to find out what more weird shit we're gonna see. At like some point, just your fucking primitive brain will kick in and be like, get the fuck out of here. I don't understand how if you get killed in that situation, I mean, you were just one of those fucking depressed millennials and you were looking for it. Because
and it's so fucking weird because it has Melissa George, and Melissa George has been in a ton of stuff, but most horror fans will recognize her from 30 Days of Night, or maybe if a little lesser known, A Lonely Place to Die. But in both of those, she was hardcore, she was a survivor, and she was tough as fucking nails. Right. Olivia Wilde, she recently had a Vigilante come out. Where she was hard fucking core. Mm-hmm. Okay? Obviously survivors. Josh Duhamel, a survivor, he married Fergie to, keep his career alive. And...
yeah.
And so, but to see the characters that they portray nowadays, and then going back to this one early on, was just mind-boggling. No. It was like, as actors, as actors, they had to know. It's like no logic. They read that script. No logical person does this. But I guess you just don't have that luxury when you're that early in your career. You've got to take what you can get and get as much spread as possible. And it was weird because Teresa's wasn't even that huge of a film. It didn't exactly blow up. Didn't create a new fucking genre. It was just
the end of the whole
kind of like another hashtag in the fucking torture porn movement.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe, it came on the decline, and whereas this one was the shock factor because I was sitting there thinking about it, going back and rewatching it, and noticing how we were getting more and more time in between torture porn movies coming out, and Saw obviously led the pack. Hostel came in on the heels of that. Eli Roth just wanted to do it bigger and gorier, but even Hostel, we only got 3 movies out of that. Saw has been the long runner, and then we've had a lot of Pretend to the Throne that has come out.
They're just
little
going
things that have come
overboard.
Out, like Would You Rather, or
Truth or Dare,
like Turistas, where and
they were like the first.
Because Saw was the lead of the pack, and it just kept pushing the fucking shock factor. It just kind of drains the blood out of the beast for everybody else. So everybody else is just. Yeah, mm-hmm. Saw did it first, and then everybody else was trying to capitalize that. I mean, and even The Collector, which is actually one of my favorite horror films, just because I think that film was totally understated. The first one was, but even that was intended to be a Saw film, and then rewritten. It was supposed to be a Saw prequel, and then rewritten to be a standalone movie on its own, and it was still done by the guys who did Saw. So, which is why it was so decent. Yeah, Patrick, Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Melton were the guys behind that, and those are the guys who worked on Saw and worked in the Saw franchise. So it was kind of like, you know what, it's the same thing. So, but with Saw taking basically pushing the shock value, they were the barometer as to what audiences could take as each movie got progressively more insane. And once you just do that, it just becomes tread ground. And now we're seeing less. I think we are literally, at this point, 2019, I think we are out of the torture porn genre. I think we can look back on it as a time of the early 2000s and the 2000s and the late 90s. That is where that kind of rested in horror film. And the only thing we have left now is Saw, because we got a new one coming out in 2020.
Well, it becomes the further you push the envelope, like the more niche it becomes, because you have a line where it's like, okay, the average mainstream person can only withstand so much. So when you start pushing past that audience starts dropping off. And as it becomes more and more like niche in it, your followers get smaller and smaller, because you will have a couple that came out like Terrifier, who has some of those brutal kills I've seen, or the Green Inferno, or a couple of these others, but it's such a small audience now, they won't even last in theaters.
Yeah, because I think Terrifier was direct to. Was that direct to video? Was that video on?
Yeah, that was like direct. It was like YouTube, something like that.
Yeah, okay, it was like that. And then Green Inferno was Eli Roth.
Yeah, that hit theaters, but I don't think it did very well.
It didn't. And it's honestly because while the violence and the gore was there and it looked really freaky and realistic, that lead actress in that, I can't remember her name, she can't act for shit. So she's fucking terrible. I believed everybody else, and even the psycho fucking like leader of the group who led them all into that bullshit.
That's all you need.
That lead actress, she is not fantastic. She's TNA.
And just to touch on that whole thing. So you're talking about stuff like Hostel and Saw, and
yes, it's true.
You got the shock factor, and everybody kind of fell off, and now they're trying to like redo these things to the extreme. I don't know if you saw like Truth or Dare, or you just said Would You Rather. There was another one that I was thinking of. I can't come off the top of my head, but they're just pushing extremes. I don't know, trying to revive it or whatever.
Yeah.
But like Hostel, I watched that movie. Okay, I watched Saw, and I could do like Saw 1 and 2, and then 3, and then it starts to get. They kind of went through all like the holy crap, this is an insane way to murder somebody. But Hostel, like only being 3 movies, I only got through like 2 of them because they were like super gory, but for like not a good reason. Saw was like the movie was done well. And then you got Hostel, where it's like they're just going for like mass amounts of blood and body parts. And so like you say Saw's the only one left, and that's because I think that they were the best ones to like, they could like put it into an actual story. It told a story. It wasn't just like these fucking idiots that show up at this, okay, we're gonna stay in this murder house. But Saw was more like people getting plucked out of their day-to-day lives. Yeah, it made a lot more sense.
I have to say,
but you could deal with the gore because it was part of the story.
Saw did the cohesive story that obviously expanded and built a universe, and
right.
I mean, I remember when the marketing thing came along, when it was like, it's October or it's Halloween, so it must be Saw, that kind of thing. So when you dominate a month like that for almost every year for like fucking 9 years, okay,
yeah.
You've capitalized on that, and you've got this expanding universe and this cohesive, well, sort of cohesive. It got a little insane around part 5, but And when you put everything together, it's kind of like, you're doing this universe building, and everybody's got to pick up the scraps because you're the leader in the shock value, because the traps get more and more insane and intense. You're the leader in writing because your story is expansive and strong and has a lot of characters in it, and you've actually built this giant world in which your characters are operating in and affecting each other. So you've got so everybody else is just kind of picking it up, and that's why I think Saw was the first to take torture porn and really focus on the storyline and the acting and then the traps and the gore at first. This was like 1 and 2.
Right.
The traps and everything were secondary to the plot line. But when you get around 5, 6, and 7, the traps were the center stage. Okay? So, but that's when Hostel came out, Eli Roth is like, well, shit, they're running on the strength of the storyline and the acting. Well, I guess I'll just try and ramp up the gore and the violence and see how that gets people, and then
I think in
now
one of
we
those
just have a
movies
movie
it's
that's
actually literally what
legitimately
happens, but-
idiot teens walking into a wood chipper.
Yeah.
Is pretty much what that turns into. But of course, but then you have the rare moment where even in torture porn, because the deaths were gruesome and violent, and had a wood chipper in it, was like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. But that flipped it on its head and did that in a comedic way, which I don't believe anybody had done yet.
Would you
when
put
you have
Idle
that kind
Hands
of
in that
gory,
same category?
where people are dying in insane and disgusting ways, and it's just gratuitous.
Right.
But
I mean, kind of that same
but
like comedy.
I
horror,
don't think Idle Hands would classify as torture porn, but it's definitely horror.
Yeah.
But I think that's a horror. I think that's a horror comedy as well. Or yeah.
Well, with it.
So whereas Tucker and Dale vs. Evil would be a I'd say you could say a comedy horror like this, like a comedy with extreme horror elements. But I mean, the way those kids died, like just gratuitous into the wood chipper, gratuitous. The dude who ran into the tree and impaled himself and shit.
I mean, what it is it's a parody, and with any genre, and we talk about this, a subgenre like torture porn, right? These genres go through cycles where you have a prototype, and then you have it hits mainstream, and then you start getting the parody, and then a genre has to reinvent itself. Torture porn hasn't really reinvented itself yet, but Tucker and Dale versus Evil, that's the parody of it, because it came out around like 2010, 2011, something like that. So we got that torture porn, and then, okay, we keep seeing it. Now it's the parody that's going to point out all the cliches, all the tropes that it has. And then it's like, after the parody comes out, you can't do the same thing anymore. It's like how Airplane killed the disaster movie genre. You couldn't do a disaster movie after Airplane came because Airplane says this is what all disaster movies do, and people look out for it.
Holy shit! Tucker and Dale vs.
Movie,
Evil is not another teen movie of the torture porn genre.
Exactly.
Was it only 5?
That's true.
It has.
What they do, like fucking 5 of those?
I lost track.
Yeah, and then it just branched off. And then but yeah, I guess we saw it with the
Did you ever watch any like
and
the
then
whole
we got the parodies
theories
coming
on that
out,
movie,
or when
the,
someone comes out with something brilliant like Cabin in the Woods,
movie, like when they're
and they
looking
just
at the
flip the
whiteboard,
whole genre.
they reference like a whole bunch of other scary movies, like they got like Deadites in there and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like.
Mm-hmm.
And evil molesting tree is my favorite.
No, it's fuck Poltergeist.
Because come on, you can't have a proper horror movie without bush rape.
Death by unicorn. All right. So what we would like to know is, what are your favorite stupid teens? What are some of the stupidest teens you've ever seen in a horror movie? Kind of thing. What are some of the decisions you've watched? Like, okay, these
Which
teens
group of teenagers
really,
were you actually
really
rooting
deserve
for
to
the killer
die.
again?
Yeah. Comment below and let us know.
God. That would be wrong.
I got some real world examples. I wish I
Awesome.
could throw
Moving
out there.
on.
I can't do that.
Moving on one day in a couple of years to
There are
December
definitely some dumb
2nd,
ones out there.
2009.
Oh, yes.
A sequel to a movie came out. Movie that was good in the first place, and I don't know if we really need to talk about it in the second place. That's The Descent Part 2. That was directed by John Harris. James McCarthy wrote that one. You got the original character, Shauna McDonald, played Sarah, coming back in the second one. And so this movie was a sequel to a movie some spelunkers found a cave, went down. Long story short, they got messed up. Then the second part comes back with the main character, Sarah, ending up getting rescued on the side of the road, brought to a hospital, and then the police start questioning her about what happened to her friends down the cave from the first movie. And then, just like any good sheriff department, forced her to go back into the cave because when somebody's completely freaking traumatized, obviously something really bad happened. Let's just make them go back to that place because we don't believe them. And whatever. So they go back down into this cave, and, because the shit that went wrong in the first one didn't go away.
It's just some
became a problem in the second one. Which, for me, this movie was... I went back and watched it again because I remember as soon as it started playing, I was like, yep, I'd definitely seen this one. And so I started watching it for the second time, and I was like, oh, never mind. I remember why I didn't like this movie is because it just, there was nothing new from the second part to the first part. In my opinion, it was kind of just repeating itself. Just reaching, grabbing for cash or something. I don't even know.
Oh, it got me. It really bothered me because the first descent. It got me. It really bothered me because the first descent, was so brilliantly done in my opinion. We had top-notch direction and a solid balance between the character-driven drama and the monsters that come up in it. In fact, the monsters were almost secondary.
We don't need
scenario.
no man.
And the thing I loved about the first one is we have an all-female cast. All of them are strong. All of them capable women. I mean, they're spelunkers. Yeah, they're these cave diving ladies who were just bad fucking ass. And just the balance between all the individual characters, their personal bullshit, and then their personal bullshit with each other, and all that stuff, was the primary driving force of the film. So we had this drama amongst a bunch of strong women,
as per usual,
a bunch of strong women, a group of strong women friends, and then of course they get into a terrifying situation where monsters get unleashed on them. And I just, as per usual, but it's not like the monsters descend on them and then all of a sudden they're weak. These girls kick ass. They kick ass, they survive, they figure out their situation, they don't run around panicking. I just thought it was a really, really strong horror film. And when we get to the sequel, I was really anticipating a sequel because the first one ended on such a down note where Sarah is still, she hallucinates if she escapes. But in actuality, she's still stuck down underground.
Yeah.
And it's like, and she's like, yeah, and she was like hallucinating her daughter and stuff, and it was like, fuck, and she's still down there. It was like, fuck, she's never going to get out. But then we get to the sequel, and she has escaped. And it was almost like they didn't know where to go, or whoever was in charge of it, whoever got their hands on the script, this writer got their hands on the script and was just like, I don't know how to paint a better picture than the first one, so we'll just increase the violence and the gore, make the monsters, show more of the monsters so that they're scary. And because all the girlfriends are either dead or there was, I think the character's name was Juno, was still down in there because she was left behind in the first movie and she actually survived. Uh-huh. Yeah, she's like still down in there, like killing the shit out of him and everything. So she actually managed to make it through. And so we had a little bit of that, but there was no character-driven drama. Now we have a bunch of guys coming out. Now, I'm not saying that guys jumping into a female-led film is going to ruin it. What I'm saying is the dynamic of having these girls together in this unique situation was all of a sudden disrupted. So now we have guys coming in, asserting their authority, and they're mansplaining everything and telling her why she needs to do what she needs to do. And of course, dragging this traumatized victim back into this, like, because she's the only one that can navigate. It's like,
exactly.
Like, what the fuck? It was so retarded and, just reeked of silliness. And so it just pulled me out of the film. And then we get another cliffhanger at the end where she is once again the only survivor. But then she gets conked on the head by some dude who's like protecting
who's
protecting the cave,
it's like
and he conks her on the head with a shovel and it pitches her ass back in the hole.
She just went down there,
like, what the fuck?
5 more people just got murdered, and then And then her friend that survived fucking Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so
they just killed everybody and then left her again. And it's like, okay, is she actually dead now? Like, is this over? Because now I'm bored.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's like I just
it's like every time you get a sequel, they're always like, oh, well, let's just increase the violence, increase the gore, and all sorts of kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe try like building on the characters that you actually have. I mean, just if they could try it, just.
See, I would have liked to have seen. I think Eugene's hit the nail on the head. I would have liked to have seen a stronger exploration of the effect of the trauma on Sarah.
Yeah.
That I think if they had focused on that, we would have had we would have been able to dive into that shit where her personal bullshit with her friends, and then the trauma of losing those friends and having that shit be unsettled would have been a fantastic driving force. The fact that she's horrifically traumatized and then taking it upon herself, that would have been the only excuse I would have justified having her go back into the hole once she's escaped, is because she left her other friend down there just by the virtue of her friend had slept with her husband. Okay, now the whole point is, yes, Juno slept with Sarah's husband,
still punch her in the face.
but then Sarah's husband died, and Sarah found out about the affair much later. Okay, but she still felt it was a betrayal, and in Sarah's mind, that justified injuring Juno and leaving her there to die so that she could escape.
And see, that would have been a much stronger motivation if she eventually goes, oh, you know what? Even though she slept with my husband, she didn't deserve to die. So maybe she's like, okay, I'm gonna start gearing up and go back, almost like a rescue mission kind of thing.
See, there you go. That I had to justify that. Like, the cops come, they interview her in the hospital bed. They've got her in handcuffs. They want to know what the fuck's going on, and she's like, I don't fucking know. I'm traumatized and shit. You know, I don't really know. She says, well, we're putting a team together. We're gonna go figure out what the fuck is going on. She's like, no, I can't let them go down in there. Oh, holy shit, guilt and shit. So she breaks out her fucking cuffs and then just grabs her shit and she fucking goes. And then we have some solidly built conflict where she's in the hole by choice.
Yes.
And now these idiots are going in and they're cannon fodder. Okay? And so we can feed them to the monsters while she's on the mission to find out if the friend that she left to die is still in there. And then when they meet each other, then that's our climax. We don't need a climax with monsters. We need a climax between the girl she left behind and the survivor.
Because we don't know how the girl she left, how is she going to react? Is it like, hey, I see a familiar face, let's bury or hatchet aside, or is it like, no, bitch, you left me down here?
You guys are talking about this? That's exactly what I was thinking. Split it off, have the cops go down alone, have her remember while she's in the hospital, and then be like, oh shit. And then, yeah, exactly what you were saying. I like it. And that would have been a good beginning to it, because you had to really take care of the entire movie there, mostly because it was just like,
that's it.
The same thing with like just stupid people doing stupid things, and they all just got themselves. Everybody died. Like every single person fucking died.
Yeah.
Not a one made it out of that. Yeah, like I said, we made a better movie in 5 minutes. It's like they should fucking pay us to do this.
I know. Hint, hint. Wink, wink. But one of the things we did want to talk about were the creatures that were down there, the crawlers. And I thought it was fascinating because the crawlers end up turning out to be basically like, what if humans never reach the surface? Subterranean humans. And it's fascinating because it was a couple years ago they found an underground lake over in Africa that's been underground for 5 million years.
I think you're talking about Lake Vostok in Antarctica.
No, it's in Africa.
Really? I found another one? Because I know that the Russians found Lake Vostok, which is like an underground body of water that's been untouched by the atmosphere. It's like it hasn't even seen light in like
it's
millions
probably
of
that one. I
years.
could get my continents mixed up.
Yeah.
But the thing,
But I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like untouched by anything, been completely sealed away from the world for millions of years.
and it was interesting how they started like studying how creatures evolved, because most of them were blind because there's no light. You don't have light for millions of years. What's the point of having eyes anymore, kind of thing? And so you get these crawlers that, being blind but hypersensitive to sound, kind of thing, because their entire life, that's how they guided their way through the caves, was just pure
Did you
sound.
know that the crawlers in the second movie were different than the crawlers in the first movie?
Yeah, like a bat.
Like fucking Morlocks on steroids.
I know.
They were in the second movie. They were like darker skinned.
I
They
noticed
had more
the
like
difference
scarring.
between the two.
They like opened up their mouths some more.
And I noticed that that in the first one they were decidedly human-like.
Yeah.
And I noticed that in the first one they were decidedly human-like. Okay, there was a human aspect to their faces, just that their noses were not as developed, their ears were overdeveloped, and they were blind.
Yeah.
But they still had their eyes, but they were naturally blind, and they were like fucking human mole rats.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. And but in the second one, it was like they added bat qualities to them. They looked like bat faces.
Yeah.
So
They were just like they were
sound
slightly
thing.
different. But if you look at you can look at stills from both of them, and it's done. They put more into the crawlers into the second one.
Yeah, like I said, they were ramping up the monsters.
They were more killy.
They were more killing because like that's one thing. Yeah, they like I said, they were ramping up the monsters in order to make, and they were more killy because like that's one thing that agged me the most, is that in the second one it was like the monsters were out to get them. And so they were constantly being besieged by these things.
Right. It was like they just lived there.
No matter
You just
what they were
happened
trying to do. But in the
come
first
across
one,
their
they were like
territory.
arena hazards.
They were kind of just there.
Yeah, if you were quiet. Right. But if you were quiet, these girls did that. If you were quiet, if you were careful, if you didn't panic, you could actually move about them and around them without getting killed. And that was I think one of the major wins in that first movie. But in the second one, now all of a sudden, no, they're fucking aware of you, and if you even breathe, and they're fucking coming out of the fucking walls like aliens and shit. And it was like, yeah, you made a sweet nasty villain, a sweet nasty monster, that's not even actively trying to pursue you and kill you. You're just in its territory. Okay, you made a good monster, and they just ruined it. So
Yeah.
They made it generic.
Yeah.
That
was
movie
they made it
being-
generic.
The
Yeah.
first one being all female led,
Goddamn
and then
right.
the second one having kind of a mix of both. And other films maybe that have an all male cast. Question to the audience is, when you're watching a horror movie, what do you prefer? Do you prefer an all female, an all male, mix both? What makes for a good horror movie?
I like the female ones. I really do. I like strong female led cast. I really do. I like seeing girls kick ass. I like the female ones. I really do. I like strong female casts or female led casts. I really do. I like seeing girls kick ass.
Oh, absolutely.
Subvert gender norms.
We've seen like the helpless girl so many times in horror. I always love it when you have the girl starts whooping ass.
Oh man, jeez.
Give me Ripley, yes. Oh yeah, fuck yeah, fuck Commando. Give me fucking
God,
Sarah Connor any
anything.
goddamn.
Hell yeah, Ripley.
Give me Ripley, yes. Give me Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Hell yeah.
All right, we're moving on to our next film. This one came out December 4th, 2015. And it's the first in our Christmas lineup for 2019. This movie was Krampus. It is the anti-ho-ho-ho, yes. The shit. So Krampus was directed by Michael Dougherty. You probably recognize his name. He was the guy who was behind the Halloween anthology, the super popular Halloween anthology, Trick or Treat. And and written by Michael Dougherty and his co-writers Todd Casey and Zach Shields. and then starring, and it's actually pretty solid. It had Adam Scott, Toni Collette, David Kitchener, Allison Tolman. It's actually a pretty strong cast for being kind of like a Christmas horror movie, because Christmas horror typically gets bottom of the barrel or maybe even C-list stuff. But in essence, the story itself, I said C-list. Well, I said you usually get bottom of the barrel. Sometimes you get C-list. But I think a brilliant decision on Dougherty's behalf, because he took what would normally be a generic Christmas horror film, which is kind of like, that's it only comes, it's a kind of niche genre or subgenre, but he populated this with talent, with like serious talent. And, Krampus went on to be a quite successful horror film, like one of the more successful Christmas horror films, instead of the generic shit you get I see on my video on demand feed every fucking year.
Yeah, the thing is...
But the general plot of the film, for those who have not seen it, is a dysfunctional family unites for Christmas, and it's just chaos in the house, and nobody fucking likes each other. And of course, all of this nasty, nasty bad behavior amongst everybody brings in the anti-Santa Claus, Krampus, to basically spoil their Christmas fun. And wackiness ensues with demonic presence and taking people away in sacks and shit, and a nice little twist at the end. So you have to check that out. I don't want to spoil it for anybody.
Oh, absolutely. It's a fun movie, and one of the things that's really awesome about it is that it looks and feels like a big budget Hollywood movie. Kind of thing. The costume design in it is awesome. What they use for the elves and the puppetry and all this other kind of stuff and all the creatures that come in, like, they're all well done.
Oh, man. They just start wrecking him with the fucking Benelli 12 pages. Boom, boom.
That film has so many fantastic moments.
Oh, like man. That. The fucking... Oh, my God. What's her face? Was it Dorothy picks up the shotgun and just starts blowing the toys away? That was... I mean, the whole thing was just like, what... At that point in the movie, you're like, what the fuck? This is amazing. Oh my God, and I can't stand Adam Scott most of the time.
I swear, Michael Dougherty's got a way with holiday
just
horror.
Like truly,
really
like
does.
the characters that he plays, I know he's doing it on purpose, but it's like I just can't stand that character. And he plays this, I don't know, he plays this really well. And the whole, okay, so my favorite part of this movie, like when Krampus first makes himself known, when the daughter's out in the road, she sees him and she's running and he's like jumping from house to house. That's when I was like, all right, this is probably going to be good. And it followed through. It was a really good shot. It was like, yeah, I don't know. It was just watching that. I was like, oh, this is like
that's
real.
such
I thought
a good
this was
shot.
supposed to be like funny. And then it just, it was not funny. Everybody gets fucked up pretty hard in that movie.
But don't shit on Adam Scott, because he was actually really fucking... Okay, but don't shit on Adam Scott, because he was actually really fucking funny in Little Evil.
I don't know.
I thought he was hysterical in that.
I love him in Parks and Rec, though.
He was good in Parks and Rec. So he's got his moments. For me. Yeah, I can understand that a little too much Adam Scott. A little bit of Adam Scott goes a long way.
I think that's
and
what
you can have too much Adam Scott, where you're just listen.
Gary, the kick drum. Oh. No, it was. One of the things we want to talk about the director for a little bit. Dory.
I know. One of the things we want to talk about. We want to talk about the director for a little bit, Michael Dougherty, right? Who?
Dougherty.
Yeah, Dougherty. He, first of all, the way he's able to use like a holiday theme horror, in starting with the Trick or Treat and going with Krampus, and this is actually the guy who has like the textbook film career, because he went to film school, right? And he started off making these little holiday themed horror films, and then he started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where he got the
Such an
opportunity to
underrated
direct
film, too.
Godzilla King of the Monsters. Like, that's such a
Yeah.
huge, like, stepping point.
Oh, it's a dream trajectory, I think, for any director to pretty much. It's what we hope for. It's what we like to plan for, but it doesn't. It just doesn't fucking happen. But man, he hit it with this one. It was just been one after the other. I'm God, he's so good. I'm just hoping he continues the streak.
Yeah, absolutely. Which Trick or Treat 2 has already been announced. So I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm hoping he keeps up the good work.
God, this just the whole
we'll be keeping an eye out for it.
Because at like this time too, you had a lot of the Christianity issues. Everybody's getting offended. It's getting to be about that time, and he just like swings the bat at like, let's just let's knock on the door of some religions and see what happens. Yeah, and so it's like the whole Christmas thing, and everybody's always you get this privileged family.
Make a horror movie out of it. Let's go.
They're ungrateful, and then it's like, well, somebody's got to fucking pay for being ungrateful, and they unleash this Krampus, which I don't remember hearing about Krampus as a kid. I don't know if those stories were ever told to you guys, but like I didn't know much about it.
They were told to me. My mother's side of the family is from the areas in Europe that they were told to me.
Yeah,
my mother's side of the family
Europe,
is from
Austria,
the areas in Europe
Bavaria,
that legend
Czech Republic,
originated
Hungary,
from.
Italy. Like everybody's got this version of this anti-Santa.
Yeah.
Who like nobody knows where the legend actually came from, but it's this half goat, half demon. It just comes into houses and fucking punishes the children that are naughty.
Hell, in Mexico they've got
some
Black
cultures
Peter.
He eats them, and some cultures he tortures them, and it's terrifying. Like, why would you tell your children this story?
If you go online, you can actually see some of the postcards, some of the Krampus postcards.
Yeah.
Out of Germany. No, if you go online, you can actually see some of the postcards, some of the Krampus postcards from out of Germany and shit. They're so fucking wicked looking.
Yeah,
because you got Krampus on there, and it's kind of like a cartoon character of him, but he's always got kids by the fucking ankle, and he's got a big bulging sack of children. and I've seen ones where I've seen ones where he's stabbing them through the gut, and he's got this grin on his face, It's some twisted shit. I did like it. It's a freaky. The image of the anti-Santa Claus is like that, and they always do really cool shit with him. I think my favorite depictions of him. I did enjoy the depiction of him in Krampus. I really liked it in Rare Exports, which was a similar deal where a bunch of people think that a bunch of people in the small community, they think that they caught Santa Claus, but in actuality it's an elf, and it turns out that it's an elf of Krampus. That Krampus has his own elves, and Krampus is this giant horned monster that's frozen in ice, and the elves all showed up to break him out of the ice and shit. And so that was a freaky one, but I also liked. But I also liked. I don't know if you guys saw it. I saw called A Christmas Horror Story, which was an anthology of. It was a collection of movies and the framework. The framework was a story about a DJ played by William Shatner. But in the final one of that, it had this version of Krampus, and you may have seen it for all listeners. The picture I posted up announcing episode 10 had that picture of Krampus in it, and there's this epic fucking fight. Hardcore bloody fight between him and Santa Claus in the end of that movie. It's fucking brutal. It's Krampus assaults the fucking Santa's workshop. He assaults Santa's workshop, and he infects the elves and turns them into fucking psycho zombies, and they start attacking everybody, and Santa's the last man standing, and he's got this fucking badass staff. And he's just fucking smoking people with it and shit. And then he gets into this hardcore brawl with Krampus. The shit is amazing.
I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, I need to see this.
It's called A Christmas Horror Story. It's on Netflix.
All right.
So, but yes, it is fucking amazing. It is better than it has any right to be.
Yeah, I'm watching that later.
So, but that brings up for you guys. For all of our listeners, what is your favorite Christmas horror movie? There are so many out there. You've got A Christmas Horror Story. You've got Krampus. You've got actually got a ton of Krampus movies. You've got fucking Black Christmas. You got Silent Night, Deadly Night. What is your favorite Christmas horror movie? What do you like to snuggle up to when it's cold outside and get scared the shit out of you too? We want to hear about it. Let us know in the comments.
It's tool time.
Absolutely terrifying.
Make sure to TiVo Tool Time.
You can watch
Tim
my
Allen
show.
fucking
I'm
murder
come here
you
to
in your
punch you.
Oh. Oh fuck, dude! And now I'm sorry you bring that up, and that's why Last Man Standing, his new show.
I really like that show.
Oh my god, it's fucking Home Improvement all over again. Only it's like Home Improvement, but like really fucking conservative.
I've heard about that.
I'm sorry, but I don't think I've ever seen a character who just want to suck off Ronald Reagan more than him. It's just like, ugh.
They're trying to make
God,
America,
just stop
America
with the conservative
again.
talk. It's not. It's supposed to be a family, like a family, funny family show, and it was like, dear God, man.
Oh yeah. I will see. Want to watch sitcoms? I just want to watch something that's funny.
Shit.
Exactly. Yes, and he can be so funny. Okay, nobody fucking responded to that, so I guess
Home
Tim Allen
Improvement was good.
Am I the only one that saw Wild Hogs? I mean, come on.
Okay, yeah. It was good. It was good. All right. On to our next movie, right? Please. Coming out December 5th, 2008, right? It was directed by Tom Shanklin, right? Starring Eva Bristol and Hannah Tonston. I'm horrible at pronouncing these names, by the way.
It's that movie with that
I always try to find the ones that are the most difficult for you to read.
I'm like, Tom...
Wait, which one?
That guy over there.
That one guy who was in that one movie. That one movie with the people in it.
Fucking kids.
It came out that one time.
Yeah. Then, of course, the movie we're talking about is The Children. Fucking kids.
Creepy fucking
creepy kids. So those of you who have never seen it before, right? It actually takes place with a family going out on vacation, right, during the winter time, and these kids, the kids that they bring with them, start getting sick, and they start puking, and they start getting pale, and all this other kind of thing. They start talking about like the flu or the cold and all this other kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden, these kids turn on the parents and try to start killing them. But what makes this movie really, really creepy is the fact that they still have this childlike wonder to it. So it's like
creepy, dude.
Ha 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 ha, you're dead now. Ha, 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 ha.
So
see, exactly.
That's terrifying. I was actually as a father.
Exactly.
Not that it's ever crossed my mind or
exactly
anything,
like
but like
that.
if there was ever a situation where like my child turned into a zombie, or like, you know, that would have to be the hardest moment of my life. And so you see movies like this where like the kids turn against the parents and in a creepy way where it's like they're just your kids. And you just, I don't know, that's such a hard situation to be in. And like children in any horror movie that I've ever seen, there's always like an aspect to it. I mean, with the exception of a few, you know, like Samara or, you know, a situation where you just take a golf club to their head no matter what. But like, there's always like that whole aspect of like the kid being a kid. It's just a kid. But then they do something that's like, okay, well, maybe I can't defend myself against this kid. I have to do something. But then you still feel like it's just my kid. That's just a terrible, like, back and forth when you come across these kinds of movies. And so these ones hit real hard.
They had that scene. They had that scene pretty that went pretty good in there. It was when the two kids had cornered their mom in the upstairs bedroom, and when they cornered her, and she could have taken them. She could have.
Yeah, that's a choice that you would have to make as a parent.
And so just like kind of accepted her fate, and just like
literally.
Well, because like as a parent, like you do anything to protect your kids. Like you will take a bullet for your kids, and even it's like okay, they're going and they're killing people, but that's still like ingrained in there, and it's almost like I would rather die than not let anything happen to kids, despite the fact that they're killers. And so it's a huge conflict.
I don't know. It's like the innocence of the deal. Like
shit,
like
not
I've
with
been
my
with
dad.
my child,
He'd kill me and make
like,
another one just like me.
her whole life. You know, it's like I know who she is. I know where she's at. I know what she's done. And then all of a sudden, like if she were to switch into like something that was harmful to me, she's never done anything wrong. Like just the circumstances, just bad. That's terrible. I didn't even think about it this hard before. I'm like, shit.
I think that was one of the most effective things about the children. We've got movies. I think that was yeah. And I think that was one of the most effective things about the children. Is we've got movies with creepy kids before. Like Gage in Pet Sematary, or of course Village of the Damned. But in those kids, in those situations, those kids were almost alien. Because Gage is dead, he's undead. He's not human anymore. He's a zombie. Village of the Damned. Those kids are all part alien, and we all fucking know it. So, but in this one, in this little gem, the children, they were still kids, just violently homicidal towards adults. But in all other aspects, but even that, they were children, like Eugene was saying. There was this kind of idyllic innocence to their behavior. It's just that instead of like your normal innocence where the kid is kind of like exploring and is like, ooh, look at the world, it's like this. No, it was just that idyllic innocence when it came to murder. And it plays out very, very crazy. It's just very fucking psychotic, and it's weird, and it's disconcerting because you recognize the behaviors, and you recognize that from a child's perspective, how those behaviors go hand in hand. And like how children could come to these conclusions, or could be like could do the things that they're doing, like that whole thing, where they gut the one dad, and the daughter sticks the Barbie doll into his guts.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's now if you look at it from an objective standpoint, yeah, we see what they're doing. That the little girl is making those inferences and is making the jumps. This is where babies come from, and it's like this, well, like that. She's just acting out homicidally, and it made the film really super creepy, and one of the better ones out of Ghost House Underground, because that little, I loved this banner, and even though Ghost House Underground was only around for 3 years, they put out 15 movies, and I could recommend almost every damn one of them. And Ghost House Pictures is still around. They're putting out they're behind the Grudge remake that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. That's coming out next year, but they had some solid ones, and The Children was one of their better ones, to be perfectly honest. But they got a bunch. I strongly recommend that banner, because you got stuff like The Tattooist, which was about an evil curse that is based upon Maori legend that passes along bloodlines, that's traced back into the tattooing rituals of Maori. Dark Floors, which was backed by the Norwegian band Lord, and had them starring as the monsters. You had fucking Offspring, based on the Jack Ketchum book, super violent and gory, about cannibals that travel up and down the coast eating unwearing tourists and shit. You had a ton of really, really good stuff that came out of Ghost House Underground.
It's definitely something to check out. A lot of these are good underground horror films that typically don't get a lot of attention or advertisement or stuff like that, but it's stuff to check out.
Yeah, it just made me sad that the banner didn't last much longer. Didn't last longer than 3 years, because 2008 to 2011. But they put out 15 titles, and I could recommend virtually every single one of them. So any of those, Ghost House Underground, definitely watch The Children. It's a really, really disturbing film that I think will get under your skin. And then, of course, any in that camp, because like I said, there's only 15. You could find them there. Usually all of them are pretty much VOD. Some of them were festival entries that then went from festival to DVD for distribution. So, but I could recommend that.
Yeah, it basically it reminds me of the scene of in The Walking Dead with Lizzie. I don't know if
Oh yeah,
where she's like where she kills her sister and it's like, don't worry, she'll come back and we can play, kind of thing. And to her it was just like, oh, just normal, no big deal,
it just
kind of thing like that.
It just doesn't fucking register.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then
no.
they have to shoot her. Just stare at the roses.
Oh,
Look at the flowers. Look at the flowers, Lizzie.
She doesn't know what to do. She's just like,
oh, fucking Carol. God.
do this extreme thing. Like, oh, that probably wasn't the right.
She's been through a lot.
That 357 left a big hole.
Ooh, can't take that back.
Nah, yeah.
Yeah. And so, let us know, what are some of your favorite creepy kids from movies? You know, creepy kids. Is it like Samara from The Ring?
Go see Dr.
Or
Sleep
the Grady twins from The Shining? Gage from Pet Sematary?
Play with us, Danny. Play with us forever.
Yes.
Those fucking twins. Dude,
well, yeah,
that creepy little kid in The Grudge that screams like the cat
I'm
and
sitting
shit.
right by a window.
Was it Tasho?
Stop it.
I think so. It's like, oh, that kid.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Moving on. Moving on to our last. Put those kids in a box. Bye. Moving on to our last movie
Creepy
of
kids
the
to the
week.
left.
On December 7th, 1977. It was released in the United States, I think actually in 1976 in the Britain places. The British places. I'm sorry, in Europe. Sorry, this was a really good film from 1977. This is actually a really good movie. It was called Schizo, directed by Pete Walker and written by David McGillivray, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. But this movie was about a woman whose mother is killed by this guy who gets out of prison, and she feels this man is like stalking her throughout this whole movie, and then people start turning up dead, and these like bloody knives get left all over, and she thinks that this guy's after her. And I don't know. Do we spoil the end of this movie? Because it had a huge twist at the end of it. There is definitely a huge twist at the end. I don't think we should spoil it, but in the 70s, this was like a really definitely don't turn out the way you expect psychologically, and then the ending came and it was like, whoa, that was so unexpected for this time period, for this piece. It was super cool. I really liked it.
Did not see that one coming.
No, absolutely not. That must have blown people's minds in the 70s.
You did not see that one coming.
No,
Lynn Frederick,
absolutely not. And the lead actress on that, Lynn Frederick, so absolutely talented, and I arguably, and also I would have to agree with this, arguably amongst horror fans, probably the first legitimate scream queen, because. This talented girl had put up so many what are considered now hit films or cult films. I have to say, like Vampire Circus and Phase 4, Schizo, and I think one of my favorites, 4 of the Apocalypse. And so she established herself, and this is a girl from England who just crushed it in a time when these types of films they were heading in towards the video nasty phase, where the UK started banning movies like this for their violence, for their language, for their depictions of, things that were deemed unseemly or were a danger to the public decency. So, and I thought, what a better time, what a powerful time to come out as a woman, especially with a film like Schizo, whereas no one saw the end of that coming.
because schizophrenia being something that they used to just diagnose crazy people with to a thing they actually started to study and be able to single out who are actually schizophrenic, and that being such like a huge thing, a lot of people's lives were shook up by this disease and we're just learning about it, and they really touched.
On top of that, it's like we actually get it from the main character's perspective. And plus, on top of that, it's like we actually get it from the main character's perspective, because a lot of times in films when you see like mental illness, it's always like the outside perspective. You have like the same characters, and then you have the one character who's mentally ill, and we see it from the outside perspective. But this is, we get it like basically POV and what it's like to kind of have that, which is revolutionary.
It was one, I think, one of the first times in horror films. I know it'd been done before in dramas like this, but in a horror film, having an unreliable narrator in that respect, where we're in her shoes and we realize that everything that's going on, you have the unreliable narrator trope, in that all of a sudden what you see might not be what's really happening, or where we're with her on her story.
It is cool
but
how they play
things
off
are
how
much
they
different
play, like, both sides,
once
but
you
from
start
one
putting in other
perspective.
people's reactions to
And
what
so
are
like
going
you
on.
might be able to see a little something different, but the whole thing is it's really playing out like, okay, you are this crazy person, what's going on, how do we figure out what's going on? And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what? Whoa. Turn around.
I think one of the biggest.
Because yeah, what?
Yeah. Definitely, I think one of the biggest twists in horrors, because this came out in '77, and out of the UK, no doubt, no less. And one of the biggest twists I'd seen. I mean, twists today are a dime a dozen. Thank you, M. Night Shyamalan.
So
Lama lama ding dong. What the twist? but thanks to him, they're a dime a dozen now. But back then, I mean, I can think of maybe there was Schizo had this big huge twist in it. There was another movie I think called Pin, which had a pretty major twist. Friday the 13th, obviously 1980, had the big twist in that one. It was like, oh, it's Jason's mom. That whole kind of thing. And so I think that I've gone back and I've got, there's horror films there, but they're all pretty much, they follow a rudimentary formula. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, killer stab you like this, plot, blah, blah, blah. But, really putting in, especially a twist like this.
It's an old film, but it's just...
And I don't want to spoil it for anybody. They've got to go see it because it'll blow their minds as much as it blew mine. And, yeah, I just think I can't...
It really is. And it's interesting because, talking about, like, different twists, like... Is it to the point now? Is it just played out? I mean, you get this back then where it was like,
that makes it so hard for writers, because
and now it's almost like we watch a horror movie, we're just
story, it's got to
twist
a couple of times now. It's not just like the one big twist. You got to play it out like it's going to be one way, then it goes to a different way, but that's already been done. So you got to go back to the other way, and you got to be careful because it could just become generic.
Yeah, because it's like even when you're like pitching ideas to producers or stuff like that, it's like, oh, it's a horror movie. What's your twist? Instead of just being like, oh, it's a horror movie. What's your story?
I have to admit I fell prey to that as well, because the horror movie that I wrote that I hope to get made one day. And I wrote this back in 2003. It was like 2002, 2003. I wrote a horror movie, and even I fell prey to that. And hell, I was only 23 when I wrote it, and I was like, I gotta have a twist.
That's a big twist.
And I did have a twist. There was a monster. If anybody asked me that question, it's like, what's your twist? It's like, oh, there's a monster.
$20 is $20.
I was young and I needed the money.
Man.
That's what they all say.
But, no, go ahead.
$20 is $20.
So I would actually... I would like to go back to the point where a twist didn't come as a requirement for horror. I like to go
as
back
part
to
of
like,
the story,
we get a twist every once in a while to kind of keep something fresh and new, but instead of it being played out as much as it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to rely on it. It should be something that livens stuff up.
Exactly.
Okay, and then makes us look back. So
Yeah.
we don't want to have to watch the film and be like, oh, well, but when the twist comes, we look back at the film and we see the film in a new way.
Focal points.
It's like, oh wow, okay, fantastic. That's what I think. That's where it should go. There you go.
Exactly.
But this movie, I mean,
not a
movie
focal
with the
point,
twist
but as a
being
connecting
really early in the time period, and then also just playing off of the mental illness in this movie. Like, our listeners out there, my question is, do you think that mental illness should be something that is still played out in horror movies? Because I know they don't do it a whole lot anymore, but touching on stuff like schizophrenia and really diving into that type of horror, that having to live with that disease, is that something we could do now, being, everybody's so offended by everything all the time? Is that something that we could pull off now, or is that too taboo or overdone? What do you think? I think mental illness is so taboo still, and I feel like
I would definitely like to see a little bit more.
Like,
I think it was. I think the last one. I think the last one that really kind of affected me was Gothica, and not more of a thriller, like the supernatural thriller in that, but the concept of the psychiatry of the depiction of the mentally ill and how they're treated, especially by not just the hospitals they're in or the sanitariums they're in, but also by the doctors that treat them, where I think that gave a really, really strong depiction as to why the subject is so taboo. And I personally, I don't side with using it as a trope to generate character aspects to make them into a killer. I don't much dig on that, but I could, but maybe people do dig it. Maybe it grounds the horror for them.
It would be nice, because a lot of times you see the mental illness as like, oh, that's the aspect of the killer. That's what makes them the killer. I like to see, like the final girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe she has to deal with mental illness on top of the situation.
The thing with me is, like, mental illness is still so misunderstood that I feel like
kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways.
You get a lot of people
ways
that are like, well, there's nobody doing anything about it. It's like, we really still don't completely understand. Like, yeah, we know now because we can see a pattern in, like, serial killers, where it's like, okay, serial killers have these, like, common mental illnesses or common behaviors, but also I just heard a statistic, there's like 250,000 unsolved murders in the United States, and it's like, but there's still such a giant group of people that we haven't talked to yet. So do we really know, or is this just like a small percentage of the pattern? There's so much about mental illness that we don't know, that I think it's hard to make a trope out of it, because it's ever changing. We always learn new things about it, and I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, we definitely love to hear what you think, our lovely listeners.
It's true. Yeah, absolutely.
You don't agree with it? Well, we definitely love to hear what you think, our lovely listeners. Mental illness and horror. Good, bad, you don't agree with it, you think it grounds it. Let us know. We want to know about it in the comments. Now, we've got 2 birthdays this week. And the first one, oh my God, love this cat. Briefly met him back in the day. Just real briefly at a fan convention. But I'm talking about, he was born on December 4th, 1954. The Candyman. And the horror legend. Happy birthday to Tony Todd.
Yes, the man, the legend.
Yes, the guy who brought that Clive Barker nightmare to life super effectively. But man, this guy's career has been so epic. With that, he's got he's tall. I mean, he's got that classic look, intimidating build, and that voice, that gravelly voice that he brings to almost all of his characters. I mean, he worked for Candyman, but of course, I think a lot of people, listeners today, will remember him as the guy funeral director from the Final Destination films.
So like, this is what you gotta do. Yes. Nobody ever fucking listens, so good luck.
He was trying to help people and he scared them.
I know,
literally telling you how to survive. but you're not going to listen.
So, and I would say that, and even though his career started back, I think it was '86 is when he really started putting it out. I mean, he was in like Platoon, did a bunch of really really good stuff. But I think I think his real breakout was when he hit the horror scene and he just hit it and ran. He was in Tom Savini's remake of Night of the Living Dead in 1990. He played Ben, the lead character in that.
And Ben,
to great effect.
And the original Ben from 1968 was such a strong character. It's always risky bringing a character like that back, and Tony Todd did a really great job doing it.
Oh, he was fantastic. Did you guys catch him in the Wishmaster series? There's this he played a character named Johnny Valentine, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody who do like that. I was hoping you guys remembered it like this, but his wish goes horribly fucking wrong. And so, because in the Wishmaster series, he grants your wish, and then of course he twists it, and it's all fucked up, and like your skeleton jumps out of your body and shit. But Tony Todd's character in that was quite entertaining. But he's had some hits. I think another one that I really enjoyed of him is he played he was in an episode of the X-Files. And he played an ex-military guy who was who underwent an experiment, a government experiment to reduce or basically eliminate their need for sleep. Yeah, and then he'd gone like
at least he thought he did
12 years without sleeping, and he developed the ability. He developed psychic abilities. Being able to. He could project like his delirium, his delusions. He could project them outward and make people see shit. So it was, and he played that. It was one of the best, I think, because he doesn't normally do drama. He doesn't do just straight drama, and that one was a very dramatic character for him. We got to see him play the vulnerable side, and he's a strong character, but he's broken down. Such an incredibly talented actor, and I know I love him in horror, but I just don't. Sometimes I'd like to see him flex his range every once in a while.
He's so naturally intimidating, even when he doesn't want to. I think that's why horror has been his genre, because it's just I picture him walking into a room, just saying hi guys, and still scaring the shit out of me. Well,
Well, he's working his ass off. He's got 5 more movies coming out. So he's slated for 2020 alone. And we're gonna get another Candyman. He's bringing Candyman back in 2020.
Ooh, okay.
So I was really happy about that. But for a real treat, and I think this would be good for anybody who has not seen it. But that there was a Scream TV series, right?
Yeah.
And so in season 3, they actually got the rights back to use the original Ghostface mask. So the Ghostface costume. So in the first 2 seasons they couldn't use it. There was a rights issue, and then finally they got him back, and so we had Ghostface. It was legitimately Ghostface in the movie, or it's Ghostface in the series. And so the series is going along, and then all of a sudden Tony Todd shows up as the creepy owner of the local junkyard, and he had a hook for a hand in that film, or in this series. He has a hook for a hand, and he gets into a fight with Ghostface at one point. So if you want to see Candyman versus Ghostface, then you go check this way. It's pretty much the only reason to actually watch it, because the acting is kind of so-so. The kills were decent, but the storyline was just kind of weak in that respect. But otherwise, you get some great moments like Candyman versus Ghostface and shit like that. So, and I look forward to the 2020 Candyman coming out.
Definitely. It's gonna be a good year. It is. And we also have one more birthday, right? Birthday born December 4th, 1951, Mick Garris.
Oh, I fucking love this director.
Also legendary director. He's responsible for Amazing Stories, Hocus Pocus, Critters 2, The Sleepwalkers. I mean, just he also did a mini documentary on the making of The Thing, the John Carpenter thing from '82.
Oh shit, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't get over that. This is the guy who is behind the giant critter ball in the movie Critters. Like, he was like, you know what? I'm just trying to get into this dude's head. I'm trying to get past his flowing mane. I can't get over his hair. But I'm trying to get past it into his head magic. It's like, you know what? The first movie had, like, there were a bunch of little balls running around eating people.
They could eat so
what if they all got
many
together and
more
made a
people.
giant
ball?
And just this is fucking, and that's just brilliance to me. It's just like that, and they were like when the ball rolls over that one dude, it just skins him alive in like 3 seconds. And it's like it eats him down to the bone. Like it just rolls over him, and then he's just gone, just a skeleton just shaking there on the fucking ground.
It's cool. So you got to start doing these making of little like documentary things for these like famous movies, like A Thing and Goonies. And he started branching out on his own. And I mean, he's done all kinds of other stuff. He did an episode of Tales from the Crypt. He did 2 episodes of Masters of Horror.
Sleepwalkers. Sorry,
just all over the place, kind of thing.
He's had some good ones. Oh, Sleepwalkers.
Yeah, Sleepwalkers.
Yeah, he's actually done 2 Stephen King adaptations. He did Sleepwalkers,
that got made into
and then he also did
story.
Riding a Bullet, which is about a guy who takes a ride with a dead dude, and and David Arquette was the crazy driver, was the undead driver that picks him up. It's like they said that was also a pretty effective little film. I enjoyed that one.
Right.
I didn't, but I recently found out. I didn't realize it. He did Batteries Not Included.
Huh.
With the little alien robots.
Oh, you're right.
The little flying robots that come in and then they rebuild the hotel and shit. And it's got like all the cast members from Cocoon in it.
Different day, different podcast.
But he's been behind some great shit. I mean, he was involved. I mean, you said Hocus Pocus, you brought that up, and he was behind The Fly 2, which was fantastic. He wrote The Fly 2, Michael Jackson's Ghosts, which was I found it to be kind of interesting.
So off kilter.
Just I think he specializes in
all of his stuff,
in off-beaten shit.
He just looks at it differently than anybody else.
It's almost like a fun type of horror kind of thing. Yeah, it's like, I'm going to show you some stuff that's going to blow your mind, make you laugh, and like you're not going to be able to process, like a giant ball of critters eating people.
Happy birthday, Mick.
That shit was so fucking great. I was just like, this is fucking amazing.
So happy birthday, Mick Garris.
Happy birthday, Mick Garris.
All right, well, thank you for listening to another episode. We appreciate any feedback, comments, questions. Check us out on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, Anchor. Go to our Facebook page. Go ahead and stab that like button. Get your daily dose of daily splatter, a little bit of horror knowledge every day. And thank you so much for your continued support. I'm here with Alex and JL, and I'm Eugene.
Bye.
And thank you so much for listening. Signing off.
We will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Just keep it rolling.
We keep going?
Keep rolling.
Okay.
I'm going to go it again, but just keep it rolling. Okay.
Okay, keep going.
The beauty of editing. Welcome back to the Weekend Horror.
I'm sorry. That was my bad. I blew that thing. Okay.
All right. Okay.
I'm good.
All right.
I'm good. Sorry.
Okay.
Fuck off.
All right. Still rolling.
Okay, still rolling. All right.
No, it's okay. Okay. We're good.
Angel's going to be like, what the hell? Okay.
Oh, sorry to the editor.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.